Welcome back, Wolves fans, to another edition of the Timberwolves Today podcast. I'm your host, Mark Fiers, and thank you for joining us for all Timberwolves news, hot takes, deep dives, rumors, you name it. To catch all the news and become a part of this Wolf Pack, make sure you hit subscribe down below. Tell all your friends to join as well. We're going to start off right away with some things seem to be kind of snowballing here. Not a great day for the Wolves, not a great weekend for the Wolves. Things kind of came to a boiling point after the ugly 18 point, um, well, the comeback, the Wolves blowing an 18-point lead to the 13 win New Orleans Pelicans, led by Zion Williamson. We always have trouble with him. The loss itself, I'm not going to talk about. What I am is what happened in the locker room after. Rudy Gobert kind of opened up a whole big can of worms here, really kind of calling out his coaching staff, and teammates. Um, you know, Kind of directed towards Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, kind of talking about the leaders of the team. Kind of think we know who he's talking about, especially if you watch the tape. You saw some of that lack of effort, which we have seen definitely on occasion from both Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. But the way in which Rudy went about things was kind of a little bitch move, to be honest. Calling out your coach and teammates to the media after an ugly loss. I have kids that are in youth sports. I was a youth coach, high school coach, and one thing we always said was never talk, never sound off within 24 hours because you're going to say things you probably regret. Tensions, emotions are high, and that's just exactly what Rudy did. I'm going to read his exact quote here. At some point, if the players don't have accountability, someone has to have accountability for the players. I'm on straight effort. I'm just talking straight effort. I'm not getting to the basketball side of things. Like, mistakes are a part of the game, but the effort, to me, for a team that wants to play for a championship, it's unacceptable. Well, let's look at what Rudy said. Because it's all true. Um, Players don't have accountability, uh, at least what we see. We don't know what goes behind the scenes, but when the lack of effort is going on from game to game, we've seen it resurface against lower teams, teams with injuries, teams playing their JV essentially. We see that lack of effort. Anthony Edwards has addressed it too. So is this team have aspirations to be a championship team? Of course they do. They've been to the Western Conference Finals back to back. They've had some really strong wins against really good teams. Obviously, they just whooped up on OKC last week. Um, but what Rudy's saying is true. The issue is not what he said, but when he said it, how he said it, and where he said it. And I am in agreement with Chris Finch on this and handling it in house. Here's Finch's quote afterwards. I'm well aware of his comments. I'd say a couple things. One is anybody who knows how we do things here knows there's a high degree of accountability. Secondly, I handle all our conversations with each other in house. I'm disappointed in he felt the need to go outside, but nonetheless, that's been addressed already today. There has never been a team that's won anything meaningful that's substituted their way there. Meaning, you have to put in the hard work. You have to hold people accountability. You have to give effort because if you don't, you're not going to win a championship. Finch is right on there. He is right to say that things should be handled in house. He's right that he should be disappointed in his center, his anchor to the defense. So, yeah, just really, really disappointed. It's a bad timing. And I think it just points out some of this. I don't know, I don't want to say elitism that Rudy has. Maybe it's an inflated ego. It's funny, Mike Malone actually said in the pregame to the Clippers game when talking about the situation was like, who does Rudy think he is? Ain't nobody listening to Rudy anyway. It's not his team, and so you got to be careful if you're going to say stuff like that. That if you do let that out, that it actually will make a difference. Will it make a difference? I don't know. Doesn't look like it made one against the Clippers. But Rudy needs to look himself in the mirror on this. I've seen a lack of effort in rebounding, giving up rebounds to guys much inferior to him on the boards. I think that's an effort thing. Um, the the drop downs on the pick and roll that he almost goes straight to the circle. Sometimes you'll see off that pick and roll, there's a good 6 feet in between the shooter and Rudy, um, who either he should be picking up or he should be passing off and communicating much smoother. That's not happening. Maybe that's a Rudy thing. Maybe that's a Chris Finch thing. Maybe that is a Bones Highland, Anthony Edwards, Dante, whoever is in the pick and roll defense on that. But Rudy, um, the defense, your impact in the lane, blocking shots or the threat of blocking shots is undeniable. When you're on the court, second ranked team defensively, but it's either a lack of effort or just a lack of skill. The drop passes and had a pocket pass today to you rolling to the rim, went off your hands. Refusing to grab rebounds, just trying to tip it out every time. The bad shots, the drop downs, the free throw percentage under 50%. I, we look at you and it's like either it's a lack of effort, just a lack of skill, and so again, I think it's this inflated self that you feel the need to call out players in post game. So we got to move on. Team needs to move on. The team needs to get better. I don't think this is going to help. We'll see how it plays out. But he does bring up some interesting points about Chris Finch. I think that many Timberwolves fans are fed up with Chris Finch, that he is really on the hot seat, and maybe it is time to move on. Let's look a little bit at the history for Chris Finch. He has been here 5 years. It's the second longest tenure in Timberwolves history. He's number two in wins, right behind, well, not right behind, he's quite a bit farther behind Flip Saunders, but over 100 wins above number three, Rick Adelman. He has a career winning percentage of 571. He actually has a better winning percentage this year than he did last year. And so, yes, you could, I guess, technically say they're a better team than they were last year, which is kind of surprising given the lack of quality wins and bad losses in the last couple weeks. And he has a 500 winning percentage in the playoffs, obviously getting to the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years. And so, is it time for him to go? Well, let's look at the things that he's done well. He's coached a team with a lot of talent. And I guess you can make this argument for or against a lot of coaches with talent, like Phil Jackson, um, you know, Bill Belichick, if you want to cross over to football. Is it the player or is it the coach that makes the team and the players better? Or is it the players that really are they the ones that are getting the wins on the court? How much influence does Chris Finch have on the success of his team? Regardless, he's been to back Western Conference Finals. He's been the coach. You have to give him credit for that. You have to give him credit for holding things together, for motivating teams, to create a strong culture. The players, they love each other. They love their teammates. They love Mike. He left. Ant loves Jaden. Jaden loves Ant, Nas, you kind of name it here. But so those are the positives for Chris Finch. Negatives, man, we just saw maybe the lack of accountability. Again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but when you run together that many bad losses, some of that has to fall on the coach. It's just the abundance of bad losses, the mismanagement in late game situations, the lack of calling timeouts in the right spot. There's a lack of offensive creativity. Players just stand around way too much. How much of that is on the players? How much is that on Finch? I don't know if we really know. Um, if players are just ignoring the offense that they're supposed to run, that's on the players. But that falls back onto Finch because if they're not doing it and he leaves them in the game, ultimately that does fall back onto him. And the lack of developing young players. Um, you know, we've seen this with obviously with Dillingham. We've seen it with Josh Minot, Luca Garza, maybe a little bit TJ Shannon. I know he's been injured, so we really haven't seen much of him this year. Hopefully that's not the case with Berenger or Zakarski, who's still in Iowa. Um, Hopefully that's not the case, but you know, his his reliance on the older players, the vets, and really not developing and preparing this team for the future, I think definitely can be held against Chris Finch. Can I see him being fired this year? No, I really can't. I think that the ownership is going to put their trust in him for the rest of the season. But if they do not get to the finals this year, I think that is the end of Chris Finch and probably should be right, given everything kind of I just laid out. But if you take a step back, if you don't move forward, and you're not really getting the best out of your players, it really is time to move on. This case in point, bad loss to the Clippers on Sunday. It was Ayo Desumu's first game. He got in, played about 25 minutes, scored, I think it was 11 points. Um, he had no, it wasn't. Yeah, 11 points, 3 of 7 from 3 point land. We saw some of the reasons why they traded for him. Some of the aggressive defensive play, driving to the basket, hitting the threes. He was 3 of 7 from 3 point land. The 25 minutes probably won't see that always. Maybe a little inflated, got more minutes because of the blowout. But we saw some good things from him. The rest of the game was, man, I don't even want to talk about it. It was just boring, lifeless. I mean, aside from a poster dunk for Mant, and there's a moment Rudy kind of got teabagged by one of the Clippers. I think it was maybe Lopez, which was kind of funny, but it's hard when you go up against Kawhi, who drops 41, efficient shooting. When you struggle, go 8 for 33 from 3 point land, 24%. Again, is this a lack of effort? Are they checked out? Are they frustrated internally? I don't know. The fact that Finch could not rally them and get more effort out of them after what had happened with Rudy's comments is a little disconcerting, right? So it's a bad loss. The Wolves right now are in sixth place, a game and a half back from Houston and LA. They're a half game up on Phoenix. That's the 7 seed. They still do have a favorable schedule the rest of the month, so hopefully they can string together some wins here. Would be very good going into March. Last thing we're just going um, to touch on is the Super Bowl. I know that this is a Timberwolves basketball podcast, but I know most of you, if not all of you, were watching the Super Bowl. It's the greatest sporting event on the planet. This game itself wasn't that great, kind of a sleeper, kind of boring. It was dominant by Seattle the entire time. But want to say congratulations to Sam Darnold, the Ginger Jesus, the grandson of the great Marlboro man Dick Hammer. Obviously, if you're a Minnesota fan, you have strong feelings about Sam Darnold. You either wanted him to fail, thus justifying the Vikings' decision to move on from him, Some of you might have rooted for him just because of the type of player and person he was, and really brought some great moments to the season last year for the Vikings. But he did what he needed to do. He managed the game very well. Today did not put up Super Bowl MVP type numbers, but again, did enough. Did not make any gigantic mistakes. Played relatively air-free ball, and got the Lombardi Trophy. And so, yeah, as a Vikings fan, that's kind of tough to take to see someone that we let go do so well afterwards. But that's just kind of a Minnesota thing, right? Something that we've come accustomed to seeing players leave and have success other places. It's the Minnesota way, right? But hate to leave you with that sad lament as we end. But thank you for joining. And again, hit subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.